So I'm very happy to introduce Manjesh Hanawal. So he is a very active and dynamic person, as you will probably see in his talk also, meaning what he's going to talk about. But his educational qualifications are from NIT Bhopal and IISc, and PhD degree from France, Sophia Antipolis from Avignon, France, which is, I guess, one of their premier research institutions. He has done a postdoctoral fellowship in Boston University, and he has joined IE and OR, Industrial Engineering and OR, at IIT Bombay in January 2016. He has also worked at Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics, DRDO, on security-related projects. He works in communication networks, machine learning, cybersecurity, and related areas. Actually, quite a few areas it looks like. So, and he's already won quite a few awards and sort of got recognition for his work at this stage in his career. DST Inspire Fellowships, SERB, Researcher Awards. Then he's quite active internationally also in terms of collaborations with Indo-French and Indo-Russian collaborative research projects. Recently, he won the Class of 1973 Faculty Research Award, also the Chanakya Faculty Research Fellowship from the Innovation Hub IIT Bombay. And to my amazement, I found out that Chanakya is actually an acronym for Comprehensive and Holistic Advancement of National Knowledge Yield and Analytics, which is quite amazing. But anyway, he has done very nice work in all these areas. And, in IIT Bombay, he is with IER, but he's also professor in charge of the Technocraft Center for Applied Artificial Intelligence. He's associated with the Center for Machine Intelligence and Data Science with Trust Labs. So he's multifaceted. He also works in multi-arm bandits. So he has got many arms to take care of many hats. So he does quite a few things, and he's a long distance runner. So I'm sure he will go very far with his work. So he's going to talk on VAJRA, an indigenous tool for cybersecurity. I hope VAJRA is also some acronym. He may tell us what it is. Recently, he also got a Best Teacher Award. So he is indeed multifaceted.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Narayan Rangarajan, for the kind introduction, and also, of course, all the support in the department. And I thank IRCC for recognizing this award and giving this prestigious Professor P.K. Patwardhan Award. Okay, now about this work, you will see that this is a pretty much orthogonal to what you just heard. It was something what happens in the form related to potato. This is totally in the cyberspace. You will be like switching gear too much here. So this is the work we have been doing for quite some time. And as Professor Narayan hinted, this VAJRA is not an acronym here. It's VAJRA, as we know in our Hindu mythology. It is a weapon of, what's the weapon of? Indra, which is supposed to destroy everything but not get destroyed itself. So we will see why that makes sense in the cybersecurity domain. So in the cybersecurity domain, you should be able to defend but don't get breached. So that's the philosophy in cybersecurity. And let's see what it is about. So how many of you are traveling by air on July 19th or so? And did any of you miss your flights? Or if you have not missed flight, at least you might have heard this. This was a very prominent news, BSOD, blue screen of death, right? It was everywhere in the news. By the way, Professor Balaji, did you travel to fan meeting?
I refuse to go there.
Okay. Professor Santanu, did you go to fan meeting? Okay. So it is exactly coincided that time. I think it was around July 20, or I think some of our faculty also missed. In fact, our head, Jayendran, also has to miss the flight because of this issue. So what was this issue? this issue is a classic example of what it really takes to build a good cybersecurity product. Okay, to understand what went wrong that day, at the top level, it was a cybersecurity solution provided by one of the companies, very popular companies in the cybersecurity space called CrowdStrike, and it used to update its software, and that software update went wrong. So here is a example. Let's say this was just think of this is like an airline enterprise. Just think of Indigo or something, which they are using a lot of machines for operating. And let's say they were customers of this CrowdStrike. In that case, they were running this CrowdStrike agent on their machines, and that agent which was running, it was talking to the CrowdStrike server, and it was getting the latest information. So this update went wrong. There was a bug in that update. Because of that, this agent here, which was having access at the kernel level, basically crashed the kernel, because of which your Windows operating system went into a perpetual reboot mode, and it was not allowing you to come out of that. Because of this, all the operations got disturbed, people not able to boot their machines, and everything was stuck. So now here in this CrowdStrike using something called Falcon sensor, that is their agent, which runs on our machines. And it actually monitors what's happening in your machine, and it does it in real time. And this monitoring is done to detect any malicious activity that's happening in your machine. Okay? And because of that, all the machines that were running this Falcon agent from CrowdStrike got affected. And in particular, that update, that time was scheduled at around 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. Every machine who was live on that time and it was getting updates, it got affected. But this update was only particularly related to the Windows. So only everywhere the machines got affected were Windows, and that blue screen you saw, that was related to the Windows, and Linux and machines were not affected. So in fact, we wrote an article about this, what went wrong in detail. Those who are interested, I can share this link with you. Okay, now you may ask the question, why these updates were necessary? Once I install the software, let it run and make sure that it detects every malicious activity. But that's not how cybersecurity works. Cyber domain is a very, very evolving and dynamic thing. And because of that, one has to be very vigilant in updates. Let's see about that. So what was that CrowdStrike Falcon was? The CrowdStrike Falcon was something called next generation antivirus. All of us know antivirus, but antiviruses have also evolved like everything. So this is something called next generation antivirus, or in the jargon of cybersecurity is also called endpoint detection and response tool. Now what is an endpoint here? Endpoint could be any terminal device through which you access your network. It could be your desktop machine, it could be your laptop machine, it could be server, and it could be even your mobile. Now, in the cyberspace, lot of malicious activity happen. Everything is not like, okay, cyberspace makes our easy for good people, so does it helps for the bad people also. So whoever want to do malicious activity, they can also do. They will also create new way, they will also come up with new ways of stealing information and all. So there is new malwares will come, new ransomware attacks will come, and I can't build a database of all these things right away. When a new things come, I need to incorporate that in my machine so that I look for it. So because of this, these agents, that Falcon agent was actually trying to update information about these new malwares or new ransomwares at that time. But unfortunately, they did not do a good job. They did not thoroughly test that update, and because there was a bug and it crashed everything. And how good this next generation antiviruses? They exactly depend on updates. how frequently I get these new updates and how good these updates are capturing whatever the new threats that are coming in the cyberspace. Okay, now you may ask, okay, what is this new jargon you're throwing up? Next generation antivirus, endpoint detection. What about the antivirus we had? Like all of us have been seeing our antivirus, right? Like it's always there. We have seen our McAfee antivirus, AVS, which are already there. Why you want? Now here is the there is the top level comparisons. What traditional antiviruses do is they mostly focus on signature based detection. If I have seen something in the past, some malicious behavior, I build a signature for it, and if anything similar signature matches in my machine, then I will detect as malicious. Because of this, when you run an antivirus, you see that it will say these are the malicious files and you ask you to delete. What it basically did is those files signature, it compared it with database and identified them as malicious. But however, as I said, in cybersecurity, things evolve, new threats coming. If you don't have that signature of a new threat, then obviously if that threat is there in your machine, it goes undetected. So this is the gap the next generation antivirus fill. Instead of looking into the signature, they look for the behavioral aspects. So in the behavioral aspects, what they see is, instead of looking into just files and their signature, they look into your machine and see that what are the activities that are happening in your machines and is there any abnormal behavior in that. If a new threat has come, then obviously it should be doing something abnormal, right? It can't be everything, can't be normal. So that abnormality is what this next generation antivirus or this endpoint detection response tool will capture. And now they are proposing various things. Okay, now you are talking about behavior, then we can build AI/ML algorithms which will look for this outliers, anomaly, but with all this, they're becoming stronger and stronger. So the whole industry of this security has moved towards this next generation antivirus or this kind of endpoint detection and response, and that direction is going and going. But however, now everything don't come for free. Now this agent, I said in the previous slide, it is getting information from its server. Also, it will also share this information back with the server so that the server also updates its information. Okay, so usually these agents maintain back and forth information with the server. And because of this, often these agents run with the highest privileges. Okay, why that is required? Suppose, let's say, you are running that agent in your machine, it gets an update, and it actually detected some bad activity. Let's say it triggered a ransomware in your machine. Everything starts encrypting. Now what it has to do? Now somebody has to kill that process, right? You can't kill it. By the time you realize and you are going to click something, everything is gone. So somebody has to immediately trigger and kill that process which is initiating this encryption process. The killing of this process is done by this agent, and to kill this, it has to be running at the highest privilege, maybe at the root privilege or maybe super admin privileges. But then, you see, if I'm using such a tool, I'm using in my machine which is running at a root privilege or highest privilege, and it is also talking to an external server, then that itself is a big risk for me, right? If that agent that I am putting in my machine is not trusted, so it has to kill this process. It needs that highest privilege, and if it is not trusted, then it's an issue. So this is where the importance comes. You have to use, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, you have to use the tools in which you have a trust. Simply because somebody claims their tool is good, their tool is fantastic, and maybe it does all the best things in the world, you simply can't use it because you don't know what it is going to do, because you are giving it basically the full access to your machine. So that is where this requirement comes. We need to build our own endpoint detection and response, which should be trusted. And this is where we took this task. And now VAJRA, I'm going to talk is such one indigenous tool. And now it is growing stronger. I will tell you in what way. Okay, a little bit brief about what is the cybersecurity and threat before I come to what we have exactly done. So how many of you know CERTIN? Computer Emergency Response Team in India. Do you follow their advisories? Okay, so they are the one who keeps on giving advisory, right? They may say, okay, your iPhone, your Safari or some Google's Chrome has some bug, update it. Means there has been some vulnerabilities we have to add. That information they get and they keep on reporting. So as per their report, cyber threats are only increasing, and this is a very old data from 2022 I have put. You see that maybe every year in India itself, lakhs or even crores of malicious attacks get reported. And these attacks are not just to steal information. This is actually could be done for economic offense, or maybe even to disrupt our infrastructure. You might have heard about already our AIMS cyber attack, which disrupted our entire healthcare operations in AIMS. So here are a few recent cyber attacks that have happened. I have just listed some of the top 5. So you will see that cyber attacks has happened on companies like Oil India, Tech Mahindra, MobiWik, Air India. These themselves are a big tech giants. But still, in spite of all their security features, they are also get exposed to cyber attack because attackers are smart. They look for new ways of breaching your system and they keep attacking. And also these attacks detections are going to get complicated because of the lot of dependencies in the way we use softwares. When we use any, let's say, system, right, in an organization, how many things we are dependent on? Just imagine, like in our system, we use Moodle, we use ASE, and maybe we use surveys. Many things we use, right, to build. Even one of that could be breached. It's an issue. And similarly, when you build any product, you may be using third-party libraries, and those libraries are vulnerable, and if you just trust them and use, you get exposed. So because of this, attackers are look in your entire supply chain, which is the weakest link, and try to come through that. So there are many examples that I have listed here. So because of this, it's not only you, it's about the ecosystem that you are dependent on that need to be entirely secure. If any one of them is weak, you are also exposed. So that is why cybersecurity becomes complicated. It's not about you, it's about your entire ecosystem that you have to worry about. Now, let's see that, okay, these are the issues. Now, how to go about detecting them, attacks. So if you wear the attacker's perspective, how he goes about. Attacks don't happen just like in a thin air, right? They also has to go through certain steps. So maybe attacker, how happens? First, attacker has to get into your system. So maybe he will do some kind of, he looks for some weak link, whichever is the weak, which you could compromise, maybe a phishing attack. He will send an email to you, which has a bad link, malicious link, and you end up clicking on it, then he's in your system. Then once he's there, maybe he'll try to establish his foothold, like from that link that you have clicked, he will try to download some malicious payload, and then from there, he may escalate his privilege, and maybe he spread into the other machines and move laterally and go to some important database where some critical information is there and then take out. See, there are multiple steps he will also follow. It's not that he can directly go to the place where my critical information is there. he also has to climb the ladder, and there are various steps he has to do. So these steps are usually called tactic, techniques, and procedures, and most of the APTs and ransomware attacks. So anybody is aware of any APT attack here? Advanced persistent threats. So these APT threats are like a state-sponsored attacks. Like maybe think of like China has a bunch of APTs, North Korea has a bunch of, Russia has a bunch of APTs, even US has. Maybe we also have, but I don't know them. So all the state-sponsored actors or this ransomware actors, everybody has to follow some this attack chain in one form or the other. Now, what is the way to detect them? I don't need to wait till the last point for the attacker to reach. If I can detect him maybe at the initial level itself, maybe if I know that, okay, you have clicked some bad URL, stop there itself. Let that URL not do anything, download anything on your machine. Maybe I can look into there and prevent there. Or maybe if I see that somebody in my machine is trying to get the admin rights, maybe that's another indication is something happening. So if I can monitor this, we can maybe prevent it right away. In fact, there is a big framework for this, some called MITRE ATT&CK framework. People have tried to formalize this in a way like, okay, like initial access. How can initial access somebody can enter your machine? Maybe through sending by phishing attack, or maybe by stealing your password, or maybe stealing your OTPs. There are several ways. So all this framework basically enumerates them, how one can initially compromise your system. And it also tells like how somebody can escalate his privilege. If he's an admin user, how can he become a maybe super user? There are multiple ways one can do it, just enumerate that. Now the issue here is, okay, now, fine. If this has happened, I know there is something malicious happening, but how to get this information? Somebody has clicked, how to get that information? Somebody has tried to access certain file, how to get that information? If I have that information, maybe I can detect, and that is where our role comes into picture. This is something called good requirement of visibility. Like I can detect only what I can see. So I need to know what all the processes that are happening in my machine, all the files that are being read and being written, all the network activities that are happening in my machine, maybe all the hardwares that are being plugged and unplugged from my machine. If I get all this information, maybe I can do something. Linux and Windows have their own mechanism, but they are not good enough. And everybody in this industry, cybersecurity industry, try to build the CrowdStrike agent. I said it was exactly trying to do this. The CrowdStrike agent, which was running on that machine, it was trying to get the visibility of what is happening within that machine. And that CrowdStrike is one example. There are very big players in this field called Fortinet, Singularity. Everybody is trying to build this visibility so that they get good information of what activities are happening in this machine so that they can build a good detection logic. Okay, now let's come to what we did. As I highlighted, there are two components in this, agent and server. Agent is the one which run on your machines, which has the visibility of what is happening in your machines, collect that information. So that is the one which runs endpoints and collects all the information. We are using something called OS query to build this agent. This OS query is something built using open source tool. We have used it, but we have significantly enhanced it. I will comment on that. And our backend is a VAJRA server. This is the one which collects logs from multiple machines and process the logs, all the activity logs that we have collected in real time, and then it looks for anomalies there. To look for those anomalies, it runs many rules, and those rules could be based on the behavioral pattern I was talking about. It basically look for the chain of activities or the techniques, procedures I called and see that are related to anything malicious. Okay, at a broad level, this is the top level architecture we came up and implemented completely. So just think of this is some enterprise where they have multiple machines. Just think of IITs, and we don't need to monitor each of our laptops, but think of IIT has certain servers, right, which is exposed, like maybe Moodle, AAC, our attendance registering servers, our DNS servers, which are usually get attacked through cyber attacks. Maybe we can just think of our agent is running on that. And it is collecting all the information, what is happening in that machines. And now our agent brings the activity happening on them to a central database, which we call it as VAJRA server. This VAJRA server is now like a huge, I just want to know what's the time left.
Now it is 4:18.
18. I had 10 minutes more, good. So all these are collecting logs and they are bringing them to a central server. Is this central server, we process them and put it in a database. And here is what we look for, the malicious pattern. So there is a bunch of rules we write to see that is there any malicious activity. And we try to differentiate, is this a normal activity and is a malicious activity by writing a bunch of rules here. And anything that happens, we have a dashboard through which we will get to see that what is happening, like what logs are coming, is there any malicious activities there, if any alert is generated, all this information comes through the dashboard. So there is a bunch of implementation stuff one has to go through here. Like there is an agent we have to build. We have to build our own database. We have to process all these logs. And there has to be communication between my database, my server, my front end. There is a bunch of API calls going on between all these components. And there is a rule engine which is continuously running on my log. And there is a web console, which is kind of the face of this VAJRA, which will tell what's happening in your network. So that is the classic setup. It's not that architecture is what we have invented. Our invention comes in two parts. Our enhancements comes in two parts. One is on the agent side and maybe another is on the server side. On the agent side, yes, we are collecting a lot of logs. Nowadays, lot of applications are coming something called an containerized or isolated environments. I don't know how many of you know here what is a container, but just take it for granted that these containers are isolated environments within your machine where you can run your code. Currently, there are not many good mechanisms to see what is happening within this container. Container runs, but what happens in my container, I don't know. But malicious activity could be happening within that container. So one need to see what is happening in that container. So that is what the mechanism we built in. So to build that mechanism, we use this something called extended Berkeley packet filter. This is a classic tool in networking and for packet capturing. It is there and it has some recent features which we use to build this container monitoring facility. And I will say that why this is a significant step. And with this, we get something called evented information, which I mentioned is very crucial. This is like provides what is contextualized information that we want. And also we build in many PowerShell scripts to get these audit logs. For example, audit logs could include in your machine, who are the user currently using that machine, what all the softwares that are running there. What is the password policy set in that machine? Is your password policy strong enough? All that audit information I need to get, for that we have built in the PowerScript. Another thing we build in something very important, this kernel driver. As we see, in all the cybersecurity, there are two components, detection and response. So that's why it's called EDR, endpoint detection and response. First thing is you need to detect something is going bad. Once you detect something is going bad, you need to respond to that. What is the response in cybersecurity? Like if you detect a ransomware has triggered, you need to kill that process. If you feel that a file has got corrupted, maybe you need to block it so that nobody else accesses it. So this has to be done at a kernel mode, and this is a very delicate task because when you are doing it at kernel level, anything you disturb, the BSOD happens. If you recall the first slide, anything mischievous goes here, your system can crash. So that is why one has to delicately build this, and we have built that. So with that, our system enables all this intrusion detection, file integrity monitoring, incident investigation, vulnerability detection, and audit and compliance. It has many of these features which has to be there in any of the cybersecurity tools. Okay, some of the other development aspects, like these are not real innovation, but they keep you very busy, but because they needs lot of attention, like attention to the details, which takes quite a bit time. These are those development aspects which also takes quite a bit of time. For example, that agent that we are going to run, it should not be resource hogging on your machine. If I put an agent and it is taking all your processor's memory, then it's of no use. Then you will say, okay, let my machine be attacked by attacker rather than it not being unusable. So that is something very important. We have to make sure that it is efficient. So we have to fine tune it and optimize it so that it goes for low resource utilization. That is something we have spent good amount of time. And also on the server, we need to make sure that it's become scalable. Today I have 10 machines. Maybe tomorrow I will have 100 machines. Maybe more machines I want to monitor. And it has to be scalable. So this backend server also has to be written in such a way that it scales, and that is also something takes a good amount of time. And this last part, rule engine, which is basically the heart, this is the one which takes maximum amount of time because we have to look for all the malicious behavior, and we have written more than 1500 rules to look for some malicious behavior from which we can detect something going bad. So this MITRE ATT&CK framework I showed, a matrix, we have basically looked into all the combinations. Based on that, we have simulated the attack and looked at how this attacks behavior. Based on that, we have written the rules. Okay, in Crux, we have features like threat hunting. Threat hunting is the one you can beforehand see anything vulnerable is there in your machine so that you can cover. If there is something vulnerable in machine, it could be used by the attacker to breach in your system. And alert management. If anything happens bad, a machine will generate alert. Okay, alert is generated, now how to manage it? Should I close that alert or somebody has to take action against that? That alert management is there. We have also given the option for rule building. We said we have built already, our tool comes with 1500 rules, but as I said, this cybersecurity things, new attacks come and somebody should be able to write their own rules. That is what the rule builder does. And we have tested in both Windows and Linux systems. And we have also tested it on BOSS system, which is a Bharat Operating Support System, which is one of the Linux system built indigenously by CDAC and used in most of our defense systems. And I already talked about this container visibility. And this container visibility is very important because going forward, all our systems are going to be containerized. In fact, our 5G networks and the 6G network we are going to use, all the softwares there are built over they are all containerized. So containers are very popular. Their security becomes very important. So we need to care about that. Okay. Now, these are few additional, we would say that what we have built, this same framework could be used for additional things, like these are some additional offshoots of a product which has their own utility. In fact, the two things I'm talking about, there are companies built on those aspects itself. Like what could be one aspect? Now we have a mechanism to collect the logs at a very granular level. And as I said, the industry is moving forward in using AI/ML techniques. Here we could use it to build malware data sets. Our framework could be used. I can't run malware anywhere. I have to run it in a sandbox environment, collect the logs. Our system could be used for that. And then I can build a rich data set. Companies have this data set, but nobody is going to give us, because that's the real money for them. To build this infrastructure costs money, and running this sample costs them, so they have built it and kept it for themselves. So we can use our framework to build this rich malware data set, which could be used for AI/ML training and detection. So this is one use case. And I already said about this container thing. Since we have these container features, we can do honeypots. All of you are aware of maybe honey trap, right? But there is a notion in honeypot called honeypot in cybersecurity, where you lure the attacker to come to you. You create something vulnerability and make the attacker come to you. Then you know that what is actually attacker is trying to do. So if you know what is actually attacker is trying to do, you can defend against that mechanism. So our VAJRA could be also used to build those honeypot and try to learn new attacks. Okay, now coming to deployment. Fine, like we have, as I said, we have been interacting with various agencies. All these agencies that I have listed, we have interacted. MTNL Delhi, Comptroller of Communication Account, which is a branch of Department of Telecom in Mumbai, and Bureau of Police Research and Development, which comes under Ministry of Home Affairs, and CERTIN. In all the 4 places, we have already deployed, and this Department of Telecom and CERTIN, they have done an extensive trial of this. They have given us a report about what they are happy about, what is the additional things they want to see in it. Anybody interested, I'll be happy to share that. So in that way, we have taken into account many of the user requirement and adapted. So that is another beauty of these things, like because we have developed, we can cater to the user needs. If you are going to buy it from maybe outsider, we will not have that flexibility. In fact, our tool is liked by Department of Telecom because in some of their aspects, their manual work has been reduced from maybe 5 hours to 6 hours to 10 minutes. I talked about audit reports, right? They used to do manual auditing. Like they used to go to machine and see, okay, what all the software is installed in it. Is it a Chrome version? What is its version number? Is it using Firefox? What is the default browser? They used to do it manually. And it used to take them quite a bit. Now all they have to do is put our agent, click a button, the report is ready, which they have to just sign and submit. So because of that, they have actively been pursuing with us, and we have already given this to them. And based on their input, we are further improving it. So now, that's all. Okay, I took 39 minutes. Okay, so now just acknowledgement of our team members. So this is a lot of hard work from my students, from my staff. And you see here Arjun, Devesh, Prakar. They were the project staff. Now they are our MTech students also. And you see Sunita and Prachi. They have also been doing all the software development. And there have been also many interns who contributed this project. In fact, we have 8 interns from VJTI. We have interns from Vellore Institute of Technology. We have interns from KJ Somaya School. Many of them contributed this project over an extended period of time. Because, as I said, there are many, many minor things one has to carefully look into this. I also talked about this container aspect, right? Because this container aspect, this tool has also an extended utility in the 5G networks. So that is where we also demonstrated that utility. We could demonstrate our tool in the India Mobile Congress in the one of the hackathon, and also participated in another competition organized by Ministry of Home Affairs, where in both of them we could get some positions. Okay, of course, like this is development, but we can't live without publishing or having the fun of having research component in that. So whatever the new aspects we have developed, we have published them, and there are some things to be filed for patent as well. And this VAJRA logo, we have in the process of trademarking it. So that VAJRA will be eventually an IIT Bombay trademark. I hope if all goes well. Okay, about funding. We had good funding from Technocraft Center for Applied Artificial Intelligence, National Center for Excellence in Technology for Internal Security. These people have given us a good, and we also got some funding from Corporate Social Responsibility. CDSL also gave us a good amount of funding. And recently, MITI has also awarded a big chunk of funds to continue this project because they see a lot of utility in that, and this is, as we all know, cybersecurity is a never-ending story. We have to make it only stronger. So they have further supported this for the next 3 years. So this work is going to continue in a sustained manner for at least these funds are available. So with that, I would like to thank, and I have talked about the concepts, but any of you are interested to really explore what is this tool is, please visit vajranet.com. You will see what I talked about really is there. You can feel it and experience it. And any further questions you have, please do write to me at mhanawal@iitb.ac. Thank you very much.